right. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to this August 28th meeting of the Somerville School Committee. We will start with a moment of silence and a salute to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic from which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Dr. Carmona, will you please call the roll?
Dr. Ackman, Mayor Valentine,
Present.
Mrs. Bitton,
Here.
Mrs. Diane, Mrs. Barish, President Owen Campen.
Here.
Oh, I'm sorry. Mrs. Barish,
I'm present.
President Owen Campen.
Here.
Dr. Phillips,
Here.
Mrs. Krepchen.
Here.
So we have a quorum. Do I have to number how many are present and how many are absent?
No, just
Okay.
we have a quorum is perfect.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. Next, we will have our translators introduce themselves. We will start with Spanish.
Hello, good evening, everyone. Spanish interpreter Tracy. Hola, buenas tardes, buenas noches todos. Soy la intérprete de esta noche, Tracy, simultáneamente para el idioma español. Por favor, seleccionar el canal español para poder escuchar la interpretación en español. Thank you. Muchas gracias.
Gracias. Português.
Sim. Alô, boa noite. O meu nome é Ben. Eu vou ser o seu intérprete de idioma português nessa reunião virtual nessa noite. Para você ouvir a reunião no seu idioma em português, selecione lá nesse ícone do globo, entendeu? Português, e assim será feito. Good evening, my name is Ben. I'll be your Portuguese interpreter.
And Haitian Creole.
Bonsoir, nom c'est Stéphanie, c'est moi pour le créole, moi là pour créole haïtien. Si nous besoin de service interprète pour créole haïtien, n'a pour grand bas écran one ou un globe n'a pesé là-dedans pour demander de mode et créole haïtien pour interprète. Merci. Stephanie Augustine, Haitian Creole interpreter.
Thank you. The approval of minutes will be tabled until our next meeting. There is no one signed up for public comment. Is that correct?
That is correct.
So that brings us to our district report. Dr. Carmona, I turn it over to you.
Good evening, everyone. First, I'm going to start with an open remark. I know this is probably not the traditional way we do it, but since it's my first time here, I am going to start with an open remark. So good evening, and I feel honored and privileged to be part of this wonderful community. In the short time that I have been here, one of the things that has become clear to me is that this is a community truly invested in our schools and in our students. I want to start tonight's meeting with a little bit of information about who I am and what drives me in this work. My journey in education took root in the public school system. I was a teacher for 11 years, 4 of those in Columbia, 7 of those in Salem, Massachusetts. I served as a school leader in Lowell and Salem for a total of 17 years, and as a principal coach in Boston before joining the Salem Public Schools as an executive director of family, community, and employee engagement. The insights, knowledge, experience, expertise, and mindset garnered through these experiences have profoundly shaped my educational philosophy. One of my core values or core beliefs shaped by these experiences is the indispensable role of family engagement in building community and shaping our children's education. By working together and understanding the unique needs and strengths of our students, we can provide a learning environment where each student feels welcome, valued, understood, challenged, and supported. As a superintendent, my priority will be to ensure that every student, regardless of their background or circumstances, has equitable access to a quality education. We are privileged to serve a wonderfully diverse community of learners, and we owe it to each of them to create a learning environment that inspires curiosity, instills resilience, and fosters a lifelong love of learning. With the start of the new school year just 2 days away, I have already witnessed the tenacity, commitment, and community spirit across the district. During these 2 first months in this role, I have been able to visit every school, witness programs, and planning in action, and meet with the students, educators, and administrators. I'm deeply grateful for the opportunity to work with such an incredible community. Yet, while these few months have been full of hope and incredible planning on everyone's part, it has not been without challenges along the way. I know that for the past several years, the district has undergone a lot of periods of transition. First, like most communities nationwide, you focus on a transition back to full-time in-person learning following the pandemic. Over the last year, you have transitioned between superintendents and a reorganization of the administrative team. Most recently, we as a district and as a city have been addressing challenges in our physical infrastructure, particularly at the Winter Hill and Edgerly. In the last 2 months, we had to unexpectedly close the Winter Hill School, shifting classes and operations to multiple locations. This has meant moving staff, educators, and students between multiple buildings, coordinating at many levels for construction and assessment at 2 buildings, and coordinating schedules for classes in new schools. Under the mayor's leadership, we have expedited assessments at the Winter Hill to help us better understand the next steps for that building, while also undergoing construction at the Edgerly to enable us to welcome classes on time this week. We'll have more specific updates to share later in tonight's agenda. I know that this has been a difficult time. I know this has been a difficult and at times a frustrating transition. For all of us, closing a school and shifting operations in this way is absolutely never an option we want to create. However, for all of us, the safety and well-being of our students and our staff is our top priority. For our Winter Hill students and staff who are starting this new school year in new and different spaces, we are ready to welcome you with open arms on Wednesday. As of my most recent visit to the Edgerly building this afternoon, I'm happy to report that construction activity is wrapping up as expected and that we are on target to have classrooms ready for the first day of school. There are some final touches and cleaning that will occur over the next 24 hours, and we will prepare to welcome families and students to the building tomorrow evening for brief tours. As with any construction project, there will also be some minor punch list items that will likely need to be taken care of over the next several days during non-school hours. Throughout this process, our goal has been to put transparency at the forefront. However, along the way, we know that there have been opportunities for us to do better, and I want to reaffirm my commitment to that for me, of the commitment to you, that for me, transparency and family engagement is critical. I'm confident that our commitment, focus, and systems will bring about a period of equitable change, academic improvement, and joy and engagement for all of us. Thank you for allowing me to share my thoughts on this.
Great, thank you. So first we have the new administrative staff introductions.
Yes, we have some some administrators that are here present today, so I'll call them to the podium. Okay, excellent. So we'll start with our friend, Jocelyn Marte. So Jocelyn, please come in. We are excited. So I'll say a little bit about Jocelyn. So I don't want to embarrass you, but I got to share some of your strengths, Jocelyn, with the entire community. So Jocelyn is the Director of Continuing Education, the SCALE. So Mrs. Marte joins our team as the new Director of Continuing Education at SCALE. She brings 18 years of experience as an advisor facilitator in adult education settings that include community college, ACLS-funded ABA programs, and a private 2-year college. She worked for the Lawrence Public Schools Adult Learning Center for the past 15 years, guiding and leading their evening program through significant growth. She has co-authored an advising scope and sequence that has been recognized by SABES, S-A-B-E-S, as an exemplary curriculum for the ABE field that prepares adult learners for post-secondary education, training, and workforce pathways. Mrs. Marte is a passionate advocate of adult education and committed to supporting and advancing the educational needs of adult learners. Welcome to Somerville, Mrs. Marte.
Thank you. I'm honored to be part of this district and the city, and I'm looking forward to getting to know the community and we're already seeing our students today. For the first time, we're getting the students to come back in for orientation, and it's really exciting to see the movement and the first few days of the school year. And I'm very grateful to be given this opportunity to be part of such a great district. And I'm looking forward to working with the team at scale to ensure that we do provide high-quality programming for adult learners from Somerville, because they are our parents. Right? They're part of many of them are parents, and they need to be supported through their educational journey as well. So thank you for having me here tonight. Okay.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, Paula O'Sullivan. So Paula, come over. She is the interim coordinator of the K-8 STEM curriculum, instruction, and assessment. So, Paula, I am thrilled to welcome back Paula O'Sullivan. Paula is SPS new interim coordinator of K-8 STEM curriculum, instruction, and assessment. As you all know very well, Paula is not new to Somerville. Paula served on the school committee from 2017 to 2020, during which time she served as a chair of the Ed Program Subcommittee. She was also most recently a math interventionist in our district. What you may not know is that Paula has had 30-plus year career in education, with experiences as a classroom teacher, researcher, data specialist, math consultant, and math and data coach. We are grateful that she will bring her wealth of knowledge and experience to lead in the SPS, this time as an administrator. Let's welcome Paula back to leadership in SPS. Thank you.
Thank you all. It's so great to be here again, wearing yet a different hat. I think it shows my dedication to this amazing city and the students and the educators here that I just love working in Somerville. And I keep trying different things. And I'm just excited to be in this position to support our amazing teachers and all the important work that they are doing in STEM. And our focus on equity is really what drives me in this work. So thank you all, and I look forward to working with you.
And we have now Sarah Wall, who is the interim principal of the Healy School. We are excited to welcome Mrs. Sarah Jocelyn Wall as the interim principal of the Healy School. Principal Wall brings more than a decade of educational leadership experience, including most recently as the interim principal of Prospect Hill Academy's upper elementary campus. She also brings a demonstrated commitment to educational equity and empowerment, as well as a commitment to including community voices in the educational experience for all families. We are thrilled to have her on our team.
Thank you so much, and thank you for having me. I can't imagine a warmer, more embracing welcome than that I have received at Somerville. The people here are incredible, so supportive, and the community at the Healy has just been such a gift. So I'm thrilled to join, and thank you so much.
Thank you. I'm also going to welcome some administrators who are not here but are worth recognizing. And Ildefonso is going to introduce three of them.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Ildefonso Arellano, the Director of Special Education, and I have 3 department heads that I'm going to introduce. They're not here today, but I think, as Dr. Carmona mentioned, they're still worth mentioning. The first one is Wendy Roberg, who is newish as a Special Education Department Head at Healy and West Somerville Neighborhood School. She started actually last year, mid-year. She is a special education she was rather a special education post-program coordinator, where she oversaw the 18 to 22 transition program in Dighton, and Wendy worked as a student service supervisor, team chair, and special education teacher. So we'd like to welcome Wendy to our fold. The other special education department head is Janet O'Reilly, who is going to be working full-time at the Kennedy School. She was a program coordinator at Lab Collaborative in Burlington. Janet started her career as a special education teacher, then transitioned to a coach dean position, and then an assistant principal. She led professional development on SEL, trauma-informed practices, and restorative practices, just to name a few. So welcome to Janet, excuse me. And lastly, I have Mariana Stewart, who is our special education department head at East Somerville Community Schools and at the Somerville, High School, supporting our specialized, substantially separate programs. And Mariana comes to us from Medford, where she worked as an early childhood teacher. She has also worked as an instructional support staff for special education students in grades kindergarten through 5th, and her work has focused on supporting students in an inclusive classroom environment. So welcome, Mariana. Thank you.
Thank you, Ildefonso. We have 3 more educators or administrators who are not here tonight. Jeanette Riley, she's out of school time manager of programs and partnerships. Joel Villegas, assistant principal, Elm Community at the Salem High School, at the Somerville High School. And Laura Wally, the special education department chair at the AIM program. So please help me welcome them to the district.
So why don't we take a 5-minute recess just so people can chat for a moment, and then we will reconvene. So 5 minutes. guys start back up? All right, welcome back, everyone. Dr. Carmona, next on our list is the Winter Hill and Edgerly facilities update, correct?
That is correct. So I have a lengthy update, so please bear with me. As I mentioned earlier this evening, we want to provide more specific updates around the Winter Hill School. I know that many folks may already know the logistical details for the start of the new year, but I hope you will bear with me as I run through the critical logistical details for families. Mayor Valentine and Rach will also share some information. First, I want to reiterate how grateful we are for the collaborative spirit between many staff and stakeholders across SPS and the city. It has been a gargantuan effort to move staff, offices, and classrooms between multiple buildings. I also want to thank Tufts University for once again working with us to support our staff and our students. Last but certainly not least, thank you to the Winter Hill educators and staff for once again navigating a building move. So I'm going to give a little description about building readiness and classroom preparation. So thanks to Suffolk Construction, whose teams have been working extended hours, including weekends, and are on track and ready to welcome students back on Wednesday at the Edgerly. Rach will provide some more information on the project and the building in a moment. I want to echo what I noted during our last community meeting a few weeks ago. There has been a tremendous amount of work completed at the Edgerly, both inside and outside of the building, since mid-July. We are grateful to our contractors at Suffolk for working extra hours to complete this work, but I also want to be clear that while this work was done on an expedited timeline, we in no way sacrifice quality for expediency. The teams are qualified and skilled and have done incredible work in these past few weeks. There will continue to be some small punch list items to come, but the major work is now completed and final preparations are underway for the first day of school. Though the Winter Hill Community Innovation School community will be physically located in two buildings, the Capuano and the Edgerly, Principal Goslin and her team are working hard to be sure that all students continue to feel that they are part of the Wildcat community. Winter Hill educators and staff, including specialists, OT, PT, special education staff, and counselors, will provide classes and support at both buildings. So students are in both sides will continue to work with the Winter Hill community staff, regardless of where they are physically located. All students at both sides will have access to outdoor recess. At the Edgerly, there are 3 play lots being renovated. The parking lot on the Otis Street, side has been repaved and converted to a large play space with murals. Painting and equipment placement will be happening over the next few days. On Cross Street, the paved lot is currently being fenced in and will provide another outdoor play area. A third smaller play area on the Bonaire Street side is also under renovation. We're also working on a schedule with the ESCS, East Somerville Community School, for access to their outdoor play areas. At Capuano, all students will have access to the outdoor areas that include a turf field and age-appropriate play structures. An update on transportation. With the city team, we have been working throughout the summer on a number of transportation options for students and families. As of last week, we have secured shuttle buses to help provide transportation from 115 Sycamore Street to and from Edgerly and Capuano. Due to limited number of seats, students will be selected based on eligibility. Beginning Friday and continuing today, a number of our staff are calling families individually to assess need and determine who can accommodate through this service. Our goal is to accommodate as many students as possible, but assessing family need is a critical component and a first step. We have staggered arrival and dismissal times to provide for the fact that some families will need to drop off and pick up at 2 different locations. Details on arrival and dismissal procedures are available on the project website at somerville.massachusetts.gov.whcis, and have also been shared directly with families. For all families, resources and maps as well as information about free MBTA passes are available on our website at www.somerville.massachusetts.gov.whcis, and have again also been shared with families. All updates and details are shared on the website, and I would encourage everyone to use this site as a resource. Our food service. When we closed the Sycamore Street building out of an abundance of caution, this also impacted the production kitchen, which supports the entire district. Our food and nutrition service team has already begun preparations to move the production kitchen to another location. So it will be operating out of a combination of the ESCS and Argenciano schools. The kitchen at the Edgerly is undergoing minor upgrades to the electrical connections and will support on-site meal service for the Winter Hill community at the Edgerly. During the first 2 days of the school, meals will be provided by our partner at Stockpot Malden, which has been an incredible and important partner this summer. We will serve cold meals during the first 2 days and will return to hot meals service beginning on September 5th. Thanks to the amazing planning of Laura Mancini and the Food and Nutrition Service team, there will be little to no interruption in normal menu options for students across the district. Now I'm going to have Mayor Valentine and Rich Rage chime in with some more details about the construction.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Chair Krepshin, the Honorable School Committee members, and Superintendent Dr. Carmona, and everyone joining us tonight. First, I want to once again welcome our new superintendent and express my appreciation for the partnership, the collaboration, and leadership that you have brought to the district from day one. Our families, staff, students, teachers are fortunate to have such a dedicated and experienced, compassionate, and knowledgeable education leader serving our district. I want to take a little bit of time to provide additional updates, brief though, on our preparation to welcome back the Winter Hill school students on Wednesday. While we know the last couple of months haven't been easy for our Winter Hill families and staff, I am excited to report that school is set to start on time on day one of the school year at our new Winter Hill locations. Our teams are working on final tasks as we speak to ensure we are ready to welcome grades 1 through 8 at the Edgerly and to welcome pre-K and K kindergarten students at the Capuano. Make no mistake, final punch list work is still underway at the Edgerly. Our teachers have graciously put up with moving in among hammering, ceiling tile installations, and other conditions that they wouldn't usually expect. But the good news is that we're on schedule for day one. In 9 short weeks, we've mobilized city resources to move over 430 students and staff to 2 new buildings. We brought on an emergency management consultant to set up an incident command structure and build a team of over 30 people from dozens of different departments, running task forces, managing food and nutrition, transportation and mobility, recreation and after-school programming, communication and finance, and of course, renovation and construction. I am not only proud of the work that has been done, but the determination and the spirit of all the staff and consultants who made this possible. Their dedication and their tireless work have ensured a welcoming and safe learning environments for our students and staff at both the Edgerly and the Capuana. I really want to thank them. I mean, the amount of hours, meetings, coordination that was done was truly, truly amazing. I've been doing regular walkthroughs of the Edgerly with the superintendent, with my staff, and I've been impressed. It's more than the renovations. It's more than renovations to create new classroom space, which was done in record time by crews, working days, nights, and weekends in about 5 weeks. It was the fact that as much thought went into the creation of inviting spaces for recess, the new music room, places for art, all the things that ensure that we are focused on the whole child and have been thought about in this process. We are ready to serve our students in all areas with everything from food and nutrition, quality classroom, to specialist services and after-school programming. Staff began moving in last week. Again, they are moving in as final work is being wrapped up, so it's not quite turnkey yet. I want to sincerely thank the Somerville Public School staff for their patience and for putting up with this unusual start. We ask so much of our teachers every day, and they deserve credit for going above and beyond with their cooperation and collaboration on this move. It's exciting that we are holding the tours of the Edgerly for Edgerly families tomorrow night, Tuesday the 29th, so they can have a sense of their new space. We are also ready to go to the Capuano. Incoming pre-K and K students will have orientation either on August 30th or 31st before school starts on September 5th. Our Capuano Cubs are ready to welcome our Winter Hill Wildcats. So planning for the future at 115 Sycamore Street. The last 8 to 9 weeks has been primarily focused on safely moving students to new locations, but that is not all that we've done. At the same time, while we've been doing that work, we have not forgotten about the future and our commitment to the Winter Hill School community. We have been working on a K-8 master planning and also assessing the Winter Hill Community Innovation School at Sycamore Street. These items have been moving forward at the same time as we transition into new school buildings. I am also happy to report that in spite of our need to close 115 Sycamore to deal with the remediation, we have continued to make progress. Our Director of Infrastructure and Asset Management, Rich Raish, has some positive news on that front to share in just a moment. Somerville Public School and capital projects teams have also completed a detailed review of the district-wide enrollment study. They have performed an additional in-depth evaluation of special education and enrollment trends. That will help us to forecast space needs both at a district level and for the Winter Hill Community Innovation School. This critical step helps us understand how big we need to renovate or what kind of new building will need to be in order for us to meet our needs. The engineers and architects have also completed their broader structural evaluation of the Winter Hill building. They are currently using the data to provide conceptual designs for a range of options of renovations, additions, or total reconstruction on the Sycamore Street site. They are in the process of preparing these reports for our review, and we expect to see those results in September. As you may recall from our previous presentations, this is all the baseline information that we've been working on, from which we will select a design team, establish a school building committee, and then continue into what the MSBA calls the feasibility study. We are on track to move to these next phases this fall. As always, we are committed to engaging our school families and community in discussions to help guide our decisions. Our community will be helping to shape the future of the schools that serve them. To review the timeline for this continued work, please watch for the updates on the Winter Hill website at somervillema.gov/WHCIS. You'll also find updates there on all the logistics for the new Winter Hill school year. Again, I can't praise and thank all the teams that have worked so tirelessly all summer to get us here. And I again want to thank the school committee for their support of this work and the district. Our Somerville Public School teams have been pushing out information to prepare our families for the new year, and they are ready to help our families and students get used to the new environment and routes to school, and in fact, they're excited about it. We are all looking forward to a return of our focus to supporting our students at Winter Hill and district-wide as they learn, thrive, and grow in the coming year. Thank you again.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. If there are no questions for the mayor, I will turn it over to Mr. Raish, and then we'll open it up to questions.
Thank you. Chair, for your record, Richard Raish, Director of Infrastructure and Asset Management. Before giving the update at the Edgerly, I do want to share some information on the Winter Hill at Sycamore. So we now have Winter Hill at Edgerly and Winter Hill at Sycamore. That's our shorthand. Although we do not yet have the full and final reports, we do have results back on the second round of testing that we needed to do after the initial round revealed some asbestos in concrete in the stairwells that we were not expecting. As you recall, on Monday, August 7th, we closed the Winter Hill School out of an abundance of caution after receiving that information that asbestos was present. After the building was closed, our consultant re-entered the school, did additional testing throughout the school, and we now have those reports that we can share some good news. The concern was the reason we had the concern was that we had a structural consultant in the building as well. The reason we closed it initially was concrete fell, and we had a structural consultant in the building testing concrete. That testing, because we had the positive hit on asbestos, raised concern. That was really the reason for closing the building, just that the act of that testing on that material raised concern. So we re-entered the building on August 10th, did 3 types of sampling. One, air sampling. The air sampling would let us know if there's any asbestos or fibrous materials in the air. All of those samples throughout the entire building came back negative. Everything was within normal air quality standards. The second was swab samples of dust throughout the building. So if there had been a release of asbestos and it had settled out, it would be present in the dust. All of those dust samples came back negative as well. So there's no evidence that there had been, as our initial concern had been, that the testing created a release. All of those tests are by professionals in the field, certified by OSHA and EPA and DEP to do all those tests, and all the lab results are from EPA certified labs as well. We're from that, the concern still is there that we had areas where we disturbed that concrete. So we filed for an emergency waiver from the state DEP to immediately go in and abate those areas that had been disturbed. We received that, and we've been working at that abatement in those stairwells ever since. The other good piece of news out of the secondary testing were bulk samples. Just the nature of the initial tests were that as soon as you get a positive hit, they stop testing and you assume that everything of like material has it. We went in and did additional bulk sample testing, and it's not in fact all the concrete throughout the entire building. It's specific to the stairwells and some columns. So that alleviates a lot of anxiety about the potential potential presence of asbestos in the building. Again, these are, and the same company that did that testing is accompanying the abatement contractor and verifying that their abatement work is in fact taking care of any of the disturbed areas and encapsulating the material. We will have a full and final report once all of that is done, and we'll have time to sort of digest all of this. But because we have this data back and we want to share it and as soon as we have it and alleviate a lot of anxiety around this, we wanted to share this positive news right up front. I'm happy to take questions on Winter Hill at Sycamore, and then we can go into the construction details at Winter Hill at Edgerly.
Are there any questions at this moment? Actually, I have a question. You talked about the report and it being exciting news. I'm just wondering how we're planning on sharing that with the community at large.
Yeah, right now what we have is again, more like raw data and just reports on what we found. We can certainly make that available. It's not terribly interesting reading unless you're, maybe an engineer or a building systems person, but we can put that out. I suspect that when we get to at the end of the remediation, we'll have a little bit more of a narrative that's digestible, but we can talk about what the avenues are for releasing all the data in the reports.
Mr. Green.
As a follow-up to that, can you give some even vague timelines to when intermediation will be so that people can know when to start looking for this narrative?
Through the chair, obviously, because it is asbestos, we need trained professionals in there. We need containment. We need testing before we open up. We have to do it very methodically. That said, I was with the contractor on Friday in the building. They anticipate about 2 more weeks worth of work. They actually worked through the weekend, this past weekend, and actually made better progress than they were anticipating. I'm not going to say that trend continues, especially with Labor Day weekend. It is impossible to get laborers on Labor Day weekend. But I think we're in good shape for a 2-week time frame on that.
Thank you. Ms. Paton.
Thank you, through you, Chair Crupton, to Director Raish. So the abatement work is in progress, and then the intention is to continue to do this evaluation in terms of whether or not we're going to continue using this space, renovate this space, but it's necessary to abate first to put us in a place where it's safe to be in. Is that correct?
Through the chair, that's correct.
Okay,
yes.
Thank you.
Yep, Dr. Phillips.
Sorry, through you, Chair, I think to Mr. Raish. We got this great encouraging letter from the MSBA, or maybe a not disencouraging letter from the MSBA. Where are we in the process of getting the on-site meeting and tour and whatever else they need?
I love the use of the double negative, not disencouraging letter. Jackie Peaks and I had a very good meeting with them on Friday. We're tentatively scheduling the next step, what they call the senior study, for late September. They have to line up a whole bunch of people on their side. We have to line up a whole bunch of people on our side. But it's looking to be the last week of September for that meeting.
Great. Ms. Patel?
Thank you, through you, Chair Cruption. I'm not sure who this is to, but it was very encouraging, not discouraging, but encouraging to see this letter that was referenced from the Massachusetts Building Authority saying that they're moving forward at least in the next step of this process. I'm implying from this that we did not receive something like this from the Brown or regarding the Brown application, or is there any understanding of the status of that application?
Through the chair, in our meeting on Friday, they haven't formally advanced the Brown to what's called the senior study. However, we are tacking on a site visit to the Brown after the Winter Hill visit. So if we want to make the building look really bad and have Sean McGuire cry about the deficiencies, maybe it will influence them.
Mr. Green.
I guess it's a follow-up, and I don't know if this is to the mayor or to Mr. Raish, but historically, the policy of MSBA has been each municipality is allowed one project at a time. each municipality in the Commonwealth is allowed one project at a time. It's actually one of their big equity challenges because it puts urban schools at a huge disadvantage for getting buildings done. Have you had those conversations with MSBA about our 2 projects yet? If so, what is the status of that? And if not, do we know why? And I mean, I don't know who it's for, but.
Through the chair, it is generally true that no community has had more than one school funded simultaneously, with the exception of Boston, which is a very large district. We have asked that question. They haven't said no, but they did, sort of reiterate that fact. I do think, though, that their openness to come visit the Brown whilst they're here, primarily for the Winter Hill, is encouraging. So we will continue to make all the cases that we can.
Ms. Patone?
This may be a question for Superintendent or at what point would a timeline for the K-8 master plan work be shared? And then to add to that, has including the pre-K in that master plan, is that part of that work? Or, because I would think that that would be a component of this.
Through the chair, I guess we have to rename it again. It's the pre-K to 8 master plan. I'm anticipating that in September we'll have the draft reports and we can start socializing it. I wouldn't anticipate having full final reports that that have graphics and everything in September, but we will have completed enough of that work to start the next steps. The RFQs for the design team, start forming the building committee, start laying out a schedule for that, for the next steps of the feasibility study. So by the end of September, you'll be hearing a lot more.
Ms. Patone?
May I do a follow-up? Through you, Chair Krepchen. I think the thing that I'm trying to understand a bit about is that obviously there's 2 different buildings that have challenges, and you did a great job of updating. Thank you. There's a lot more clarity. However, this sort of master plan work is across the district. It's not just about the Winter Hill Community Innovation School, and I recognize that these things will be related, but I'm imagining that I see them as possibly 2 different projects, but maybe I'm misinterpreting. And so I was asking specifically about the timeline for the master planning work.
Dr. Carmona, did you want to respond?
Yes, so I think that it is hard to separate, to think about the Winter Hill as one unit and the Brown as another unit, not only to not think about also all the challenges that have been raised by all the different district leaders as to their capacity. And also added to that is the question that has been posed to me multiple times around the pre-K through 8 model. Unfortunately or fortunately, we have to think about both the Brown and the Winter Hill as part of the mix. I don't think there's a solution in which fixing one or the 2 exists without responding to the complexities of the entire needs in the district. So we are getting some reports as to the challenges that every building has shared. I understand also there has been questions around, do we continue with the K-8 model or not? And so those are things that are really, that's kind of the identity of the district. And so we cannot, again, answer them unless we resolve the question of the Brown and the Winter Hill.
Thank you.
If there are no further questions now, I will let you continue with
Wonderful.
The other building.
So the work at Winter Hill at Edgerly has been nothing short of amazing over this summer, and particularly since construction started about 5.5 weeks ago. really has been on the backs of a lot of people who have been carrying this through the summer. I really have to give a lot of kudos to my Director of Capital Projects, Melissa Woods, who has essentially been living out of there with her roommates, Principal Courtney Gosselin and Vice Principal Elizabeth Ms. Barros, and the three of them have just been on a day-to-day basis troubleshooting, brainstorming, finding solutions to difficult questions. Assistant Superintendent Chad Mazza has been putting in sweat equity himself. I haven't seen him swing a hammer, but that's just everything shy of swinging a hammer. Dr. Hernandez Morgan has been on our OACs, always keeping the owner architect contractor meetings, always keeping the priorities of the district in mind of the contractors. The contractors have been amazing. Right down the line, everyone has been dedicated. Everyone has understood this mission. On construction sites, there's often a lot of hemming and hawing and complaining. We have had none of that. Everyone has just understood this mission, working long hours and weekends to get this done. We transformed a number of offices and large conference rooms on the Bon Air side into classrooms. We completely gut renovated the area where the administrative staff for special ed was and turned it into essentially the arts wing. It was amazing to see a gut renovation on a whole wing of a building happen in the span of 4 weeks. Throughout the building, there were additional electric drops and data drops for the smart boards. The entire building has been rekeyed. The transformation of this space. And honestly, it's the bones of the building are good. The building has good bones. It's part of the master plan to continue to occupy that building. And we're just occupying it for an educational purpose again. And even the transformation of the outside spaces, what was a very drab and crumbling parking lot has been transformed into a vibrant play space. The paint went down today, and between the murals on the walls and the rainbow way on the pavement, it really is a wonderful space. As was mentioned earlier, we've done a lot of upgrades in the kitchen so that it functions much like some of our other kitchens with warming ovens and a servery. Another shout out to our Deputy Director of Capital Projects, Ralph Henry, whose understanding of mechanical systems was vital to getting this done and finding the right equipment and doing the electrical upgrades in that area. There were some really scary portions of that building, like in the bowels of it, that they've transformed into areas where the students will be able to eat or there's storage of food. Like, I can't believe I'm a little claustrophobic. Like those were rooms I wouldn't step foot in, and now I wouldn't mind eating in them. It just, the whole building has had an amazing transformation. There were envelope issues with the building. We didn't realize until we got in and started scoping this out just how much water was getting into the building. We repointed all the windows, we repointed bricks, changed the caulking on all the windows, and we patched the roof. There is significantly less water coming into the building now. It is still not perfect. We're still chasing some leaks in the roof. We did not have time to do over the summer a full roof replacement. That wouldn't be technically feasible for us to do, so we patched it. And with water, when you patch a big flat surface like that, water then finds a new place to go. So we're still tracking that down, and we're also exploring more comprehensive solutions with our roofing subcontractor to see if there's something between a full replacement that we could not do while occupied and eliminate that water. We're acutely aware of how water in the building is triggering for our friends in the Winter Hill community. Since that has been such a problem at Winter Hill at Sycamore, we are still trying to track that down and give a robust solution. But everything else has been excellent. We had our walkthrough with inspectional services today and fire safety. We've got sign-offs from all the departments. The electrician's coming back tomorrow for final sign-offs on the electrical, changes to the electrical system, and then we'll have all our sign-offs for occupancy. We will have punch list work to come back on weekends and over vacations. It's just going to be the nature of the beast. But by and large, we have substantially completed. The outside auditors are happy with the work, and we're going to be ready for the students on Wednesday.
Mr. Green.
Through you to Mr. Raish, as you said, some of this stuff is triggering for the Winter Hill community at this point. And so when you talk about the punch list items, those things you worked on, from the perspective of someone visiting or studying at the school, what will they see that's incomplete?
It's an excellent question. For the most part, all of the punch list items are sort of back of house. That won't be terribly noticeable. I'm sure there's some things that need to get moved around once occupied. The handrails on the new concrete steps at the main entrance are temporary because they need to be measured and fabricated. They did a wonderful job with the temporary, and actually we were somewhat considering taking a credit and just leaving it at the temporary, but we're going to put in the final handrails. Those are the most obvious. I think we may come back and give another coat of paint to the floors that got scuffed up in all the moves. But you know, for the most part, I think we've got a nice welcoming space.
Are there other questions? Yep.
Through the chair. I think that two things. One is when you walk into the building and you see the difference in the quality of the work that has been done, it is amazing. But I will be remiss not to mention that really the building comes alive with the work that the teachers have done so far. And so when you walk into classrooms now, they look like classrooms. That was a heavy lift. I know when they came back, there was dust. There was, although they were told that there was a little bit of an element of construction zone. When you come into the space, I know some teachers were shocked about that. They have been amazing, and I want to recognize that. When I walk into the building today, the classrooms look like classrooms. So their magic was really in full display today. So I just wanted to recognize their contribution to working under the conditions in which we were working, and also to recognize their work.
Dr. Phillips, and then Mr. Green.
Thanks, through you, Chair. I could go on and on with my thanks and job well done, and not just job well done, but I've seen improvement in the way that we communicate about things, in the way that we talk to stakeholders about what's going to happen, in the way that we share news with the community. Just wondering if there is anything else about envelope issues or structural issues with the building at Edgerly that we haven't said yet but still need to be addressed.
Through the chair, I think the fact that we're going to need to replace the roof, sooner than later, that may be a project for next summer. Again, it's not a thing we can do occupied. I think the roof will continue to keep us up at night. I think we will also need to do some upgrades to the electric systems. We're passing code right now, but I think there's upgrades that should be done there as well. Again, that's not a thing we can do in occupied. That's probably a summer or winter break kind of thing. Start chipping away at that. Those are the main two systems. The rest of this building, again, is a very solid building. I should point out that what was known as the boxing club is still not integrated. That's still sort of back-of-house storage. There's work that if Winter Hill stays there for a longer duration, say as we build on Sycamore site, and if they stay at Edgerly, I think we would want to activate that space for other uses. But again, it's not a publicly accessed area right now, so we could start chipping away at that, get some more real estate over there.
Mr. Green and then Ms. Patone.
Actually, that's not actually a terrible segue to my question. Through you, I think to Superintendent Carmona. So obviously, to do all of this amazing work, we had to dislocate a whole lot of people. Have we publicly released to the world where those people can be found now? Like if you're trying to reach SPS HR, where is that located now? Those kinds of things. If not, is there a plan to do so?
So let me see if I understood the question. Is like, how do people get more information about the things that need to be fixed, or the things that need to?
No, the people who've gotten
the people in the departments that have been displaced to make room.
Your office.
Yeah. Where are those things now, and how are we letting people know that?
So everyone basically was moved to the tab. Is that right? A breakdown of where we find everyone. I think pretty much everyone is there. There might be some SFLCs also creating spaces, but I think everyone is there right now. I don't know if...
I think his question is, how are we communicating that out to the community so they know where to find us?
Good. Thank you for the double explanation of a question that was simpler than that. So how are we communicating that? That is a good question. I think that we will be communicating that with my team. So I don't have an answer for you right now, but it's actually a great question.
Ms. Patone and then Dr. Phillips.
If I
Madam
could
Mayor?
just add to that too, is, on email, I mean, the tab is all wired. You're going to have the same email. There's no telephones too have been routed over to the team. It's, to your point, it's just the physical location. And I assume that possibly in the newsletter, the next newsletter that comes out from the school might be a good first way.
Thank you.
Hi, Jackie Peaks, Chief Communications and Development Officer, and I'm very sorry I came in the room while you were answering the question, so I don't know what the question is.
How are we letting people know where to find staff that was dislocated by the move out of the Edgerly?
Yes, several ways. I think all of the ways that I've heard since I walked in the room are true. So we'll go in the newsletter, which will start up again, should be next week, but don't misquote me on that. We'll do direct emails and potentially a phone call, but it is planned with the start of school to let everybody know, along with a number of other things. Is that the only question?
Mr. Mazza, did you also want to? Yes.
Sure, through you. As we started this transition, as you know, enrollment needed to stay the enrollment office, even though they went over to the east. So they started communicating and putting, newsletters out saying, we are now moving to the east, but we will be at, 167 Holland Street in the TAB building, come beginning of September. Same thing with SFLC, because we wanted to make sure that those two departments were front-facing because of their importance to the community. So it's kind of a handful of different ways to communicate.
Did you want to follow up, Mr. Green?
As a follow-up, I know that we have historically paid fairly high rent for space in the TAB. Is that rent going up now that we have central office there, or is TAB's doing us a solid?
Dr. Carmona?
I don't know, Rich has the answer.
Through the chair, the additional rent is only for the new spaces where SPS moved in. The areas where we were already occupied, the terms of the previous rent agreement still stand.
Mr. Green?
And I guess the follow-up to that is, and how much extra rent are we paying?
We're going to be bringing that to City Council, I think, next week as we finalize it. I mean, I've got an idea where it is, but I don't think it's appropriate to guess as to where it's going to land before we bring it to City Council.
Great, thank you. I have Dr. Phillips and then Ms. Baton.
Thanks through you, Chair, to Mr. Rage. Sorry, follow up from my last question. You said the electrical systems are something we're going to have to address at some point. I've gotten reports from some teachers that there's still some classrooms without power. Could you speak to that issue at all?
Through the chair, I am not aware of any classrooms that have a systemic problem without power. It may be that we had a teacher in a room whilst we were doing some work, and so it had no power at the time. But in general, everything is working.
Thanks for that. If I hear back from them, I will send them to Dr. Carmona.
Or just have them submit a 311 is the fastest way. And,
okay, great.
And it'll get to us.
Thank you.
Ms. Baton.
Thank you, through you, Chair Krepchen. I appreciate everything that has gone on this summer, all the work, the effort, the attention. I appreciate that Dr. Carmona has referenced the staff at the Winter Hill and having to really have a heavy lift to really set up these new classrooms. I also want to acknowledge all the administrators that had to up and move. I think that was a pretty huge lift for them as well, so I just wanted to put that out there, that everybody's been incredibly flexible in service to our students and our families, and I'm just so appreciative of that, and I look forward to the new planning work that's going to happen.
And I just wanted to make a comment/suggestion that somebody take video during the open house tomorrow and share that for anyone who's not able to make it. Great. Are there any further questions? Then I think we can let Mr. Raish go. Oh, sorry, Mr. Green?
Sorry, this is less a question, more of a request. So we know, we've done this all enough, we've done the projects to know that, like, there will be things that once the Edgerly is fully up to speed and full of students that we didn't foresee. It's just the nature of any new project. 400 random objects will cause variables we can't foresee. So I'm asking, can you come back to our next meeting to give us a report on, now that the building's in full use, what are we seeing and how things are going?
Through the chair, I think that'll be a lot of fun. It'll help inform the design of the final Winter Hill building.
Great. All right, with that, thank you, Mr. Raish. That brings us to the class rank update.
So I'll continue with my report. Class rank, I think this is a more instructional focus component of the work that we're sharing today. This was something that has been done over the past 2 years. The Salem High School leadership has been working on this. And so I am coming new into this, and part of the question has been to basically bring this to share it with you. We share some slides, and we kind of outline the spirit of this proposal, which is basically is trying to ensure that we support our goals around educating the whole child, our goals around equity, student mental health, and college and career readiness. And so I wanted just to highlight a few things that are in your packet in terms of class rank, and I bet you already have a conversation about this before. The class rank process actually creates a lot of perceptions around deficit, especially for subgroups of populations that actually don't have access to the class rank process, like our multilingual learners, our students who are also who receive special ed services. students also who are in the CTE track or who get work around CTE. So there are different reasons why this concept about class rank also has some connotations that are limiting for most of our populations. There's also the work that has been done at the high school with surveys, with interviews, with participation of the entire community. I know that 100% of the counselors in the school support this idea of eliminating the class rank. There's also research that the team has done around understanding what the different surveys from colleges, as well as what are the schools around our vicinity that actually don't use class rank as a metric. Again, this was a proposal that was shared with you and that the high school leadership felt strongly about disrupting. It is in your slides. I can have Alicia Kristen here, who is the high school principal, to address any questions or concerns that you have regarding this proposal.
And also, just to clarify, I believe this came before Ed Programs, but I don't think the full school committee has seen it, just so you're aware. Unless I'm misremembering.
Gotcha. I made that assumption.
And is this also something that we will be expected to vote on at some point? Or is this more informational?
I believe...
Dr. Phillips seems to know.
Through you, Chair, the decision last year by the district was that this did not require a full school committee vote. It just needed to make us aware of a change that the district was making.
Okay. Great. Good to know. And now I believe I had a question for Ms. Baton.
It might be. I don't have the slides in front of me, but in doing the research, and I do want to give a shout out to our fabulous college and career director, Melanie Kessler, who led this work. In doing the focus groups with students and doing the research, we found everybody in all the signs strongly in favor of eliminating class rank, but there was still more research to be done around the weighted grades. So that is something we're continuing to look at.
So right now you're seeing them as two separate things, essentially.
They are related, but we are seeing them as two separate things.
Great, thank you. Madam Mayor?
Thank you. I have not read these, so this was the first of getting it, so maybe the answer's in this packet. So I appreciate this. What I don't understand is how does it work in the outside world? So is class rank determined when you apply to college?
So part of the process that Ms. Kessler did was interviewing 19 colleges, selective colleges around their college admissions process, and all of them said I think the research is in there that it wouldn't impact. They know when schools do not calculate class rank, and so they take that into consideration when they're evaluating a student's application. So it should not impact a student's chance of getting into a college or not, because they know the school doesn't calculate class rank. And I should add that multiple schools around us do not calculate class rank currently, including Cambridge Region Latin, Newton, Winchester, and several other schools in the area have eliminated it for similar reasons to the reasons we want to.
Thank you.
Do you know from any of that research if any of those schools that have stopped doing it have seen any negative impact from stopping doing it?
I don't know that.
Dr. Phillips?
Through you, Chair, I think some of the most compelling pieces of research that Ms. Kessler did were related to the way that class rank negatively affects students in special education and our English language learners. I was wondering if you could just quickly speak to that for us.
Yeah, there's a great case study in the slides that I think the example really speaks volumes, where a student could come here as an English language learner and by federal regulation has to take double blocks of English language courses for several years until they test out. So you have a student, and I think the example in there is an actual student, very motivated, very talented student, who's never going to climb above rank 56, even taking AP classes at the end of their career and quickly moving through the ELL program because the ELL classes are not ranked and weighted the same way as the AP classes.
Ms. Baton, did you have a question?
I just wanted to, first of all, thank Principal Kirsten, and this is something that's come up for years. And there was always, I will not speak for everyone in the school committee, but at least I had a lot of interest in pursuing this, and there was a pause regarding this because of the new building. And then, of course, COVID and shut down, and remote learning really disturbed all that. So I appreciate that this has come back up. I'm excited, and I just want to clarify, if people obviously who are watching this don't know, that this wouldn't happen until the class of 2025, which is our current 10th graders.
Yeah, it's the class of 2026, our current 10th graders. So the presentation is old. We were hoping, it got sort of a year delayed with everything last year.
So it was from the...
We were hoping that it would be with this year's juniors, but because of all the delays, we are starting it with this year's sophomores. Which another question that might come up is because we are still calculating class rank for juniors and seniors, it's not eliminated from our data system, and so we are just manually setting all the class ranks of the sophomores this year to 0. So they all say 0 when they see it. It will, by the time they are seniors, we can change the whole system and just not have any class rank reported on the transcript. So they don't apply to college with a 0 on their transcript.
Great, and then I also just wanted to point out, to Dr. Phillips's point, you also had a good example of a student who was in CTE, and because the CTE classes don't count toward the rank, they also would get kind of, the ranking wouldn't be accurate or fair.
Correct. I like the way that Dr. Carmona started the presentation of the reasons behind this. It's just really unequal access to this measure of success, this arbitrary measure of success.
And it seems to unnecessarily stress students out. Dr. Carmona?
Yeah, so I think the mayor alluded to the public out there, and so what is another data point, or how do we make this digestible for everyone? I feel that, these are traditional systems that we have had, is that right? And in some degree, when we talked about equity, we talked about, being anti-racist and being many things, but in my mind, these are kind of the true moments when we talk about equity, in which, if you have a second language and you're in a process of developing a language, which is not a deficit, is actually not a learning disability. It's not that a learning disability is a problem, but is a transitional stage that someone has when you come into a country developing a language, and yet you're penalized just because the structure that you come into determines that you are not going to be perceived as a higher performing student. The other implication that I feel that is detrimental for special education is because there are some classes that you also have to take that builds on basic skills, and sometimes limits the access to AP calculus. And the other piece around students' well-being is that there is this idea that sometimes students are rushing to basically follow the accepted pattern, so they respond to the expectations of either a system that says, yes, you need to take AP Calculus because it is expected, but that also limits their options for choosing things that they might want to choose. They probably other options like music or that they could have chosen, but the system tells them that it is not a good option. So, and the other side of this is that this doesn't mean that we're going to lower the academic rigor and the academic instruction. And so that's something that when I talk to the high school principal, it is one thing that is very personal to me. I think that it is great to say we support kids, but supporting the kids also means giving them the tools to access high learning. And so I think that there is that commitment that even if class rank is not part of what we use to determine academic rigor, that everyone at the high school is pursuing the same intentions to make sure that every kid is ready for a career in college. So I just wanted to frame that a little bit, just to provide a little bit more context for families.
Ms. Parrish.
Thank you. I was grateful for the slides that you provided for us, and I appreciate the work that has gone into this. I look forward to hearing more about what will happen, with the weighted GPA. Also, there were a couple of slides, saying should there be a valedictorian, and I was thinking about, what what other ways, what other criteria could be used to choose a student to represent their class at graduation. And I was thinking about the Highlander habits, which I think, have sort of been rolling out through the pandemic and post-pandemic, but I feel like they haven't gotten the attention that they deserve. Having participated in some of the, my brain isn't gonna give me the words, the state review of the high school, the accreditation, and reading through the materials about the Highlander habits, I was really impressed. And I was thinking, well, maybe, that could be part of what helps decide what student would represent their class at graduation if, in fact, a valedictorian was no longer a thing. And I know that isn't necessarily the whole point of this, but it was just something that I was thinking about. So yeah, I look forward to seeing where this goes and how it how this work can develop to better serve our students and the district. Thank you.
Ms. Patel?
Thank you, through you, Chair Corruption, to Ms. Kirsten. I'm curious, can you share a little bit about the thoughts around, or the concerns around the weighted GPA? I know there's more research to be done. I suspect this will probably be a little more controversial than the ranking, but maybe I'm wrong. And so I'm curious, and if it's too early, that's fine too, but.
Yeah, part of the reason we tabled it is when Ms. Kessler was interviewing students, there was actually a strong feeling of this idea of wanting, like, you're taking on more of a challenge of deserving to get a little more, and I don't know, we haven't unpacked that, and I think we need to do a lot more research, but we really wanted to value the voice of students in our decision, and it wasn't as clear amongst the student population that was an easy one to get rid of right away. So we're just thinking through it, and I think we need to do more investigation, more focus groups with students, more research into what other schools are doing. I mean, the truth is, any of you who talk with folks who work in college admissions, they re-weight all the grades on your transcript anyway. So we can do all the weighting we want. When a college sees, or most colleges see, a student's transcript, they ascribe their own value and their own weight to the grades based on what's on the transcript. But we just paused on that because of what Ms. Kessler ran into with the students, and we wanted to take that into consideration.
Thank you for taking into consideration what the students are saying. So that's great to hear. We look forward to more about that in the future. And if there are no further questions.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming. That brings us to the community schools update.
I'm going to have Assistant Superintendent Chet Massa chair the community update.
Okay.
Through the chair, you're doing an amazing job. Would you like to continue? No, I'm kidding. So community schools, always a hot topic in the city. For our schools, they provide a great service for students. I want to bring you some historical context. When we started in 2016, 2017, there were 500 students who were enrolled. This year, as it stands right now, minus the wait list, there are 792 students enrolled. And if we have our 102 students off the wait list, that will be almost 900 students. So this program continues to grow each year, and we're thankful. But again, we do have challenges, with hiring. We expect through September and October that we're going to be able to hire more people, especially teachers. Most of the assistant site directors, our lead and assistant lead positions have been filled, but we're still short some teachers, I would say, in every school. It depends on which school. And again, when you're talking about staff to student ratio for pre-K and K, it's 1 to 10 students, 1 adult to every 10 students. And for grades 1 and up, it's 1 to 13. So in your packet, you have Director Parabello's presentation. And if you look at the enrollment numbers, which I think is slide 4, We do have some kids that are on wait lists. As I referenced, there's 102 students across the district. I think it's significantly less than it has been. But again, we're still trying to solve this issue of students starting the year without any type of programming. And if you reference the numbers that I just mentioned in terms of the staff-to-student ratio, if you hire 2 people at the Argenziano, depending on the grades, 20 to 26 students come off that wait list. So as you go down, you'll see the number of students that are on wait list. For example, East has 2 students that are on a wait list, and the Kennedy has 28 and the Argenziano has 29. One of the things that we're trying to do is really get creative in terms of hiring to reduce those wait lists sooner than later. One of the things that we're talking about is having high school students who worked in the Mayor's Jobs Program hire them as additional support staff, which means students come off that wait list. So we're really trying to begin the year with much more capacity in terms of our adults so that our students do have programming. But I think we also have to understand that community schools can't be the only program that we have, right? So with our new out-of-school time manager of programs and partnerships, we're really looking at other partnerships across the city to offer programming for our students. I know the mayor was very generous, and she gave the school department $500,000 last year. Again, I want to thank you for that. And now it's time to really set a budget and look to effectively spend that money. One of the things that I just referenced in terms of hiring the high school staff, some of the money we're going to allocate to hire staff so we can get students off wait lists. But again, it's dependent on the number of teachers that you can get to fill positions. One of the things that we're looking at is, people across different cities who did not obtain full-time teaching positions, so newly hired paraprofessionals, and students, as I just mentioned, who have moved into the Boston area that are looking for work. So we're actively recruiting as we normally do, but again, it's difficult. It's not an excuse. It's difficult to hire staff at this time. We entered into a conversation with a partner last year, and one of the important things that I want you to understand is if we bring in an outside partner, they can't supplant what is happening with the staff in community schools. They can supplement, but they cannot supplant because then you violate a contract. The initial conversation we had with this group was around supplementing, and when they sent the final proposal, the proposal was basically to supplant. So we had to, call that off. Myself, Ms. Parbello, and Janae Riley are going to sit down and really figure out, one, budget-wise, how we're going to spend that $500,000, but 2, what other programming can we offer that's not just community schools, because that can't be the only game in town. We have to provide more for students than just community schools. And I think having students off a wait list and other quality programming is just as effective. We just have to get that programming up and running. And with that, I will take any questions that you have. I'm sure you will have some questions for me, and I look forward to answering them.
Ms. Parrish?
Thank you, Assistant Superintendent of Operations Chad Mazza. We need to get rid of the interim now, right? So thank you for that update. I appreciate it. In the past, there have been questions about whether we have the space to accommodate the students, or should we get the additional staff, do we have the space? So I was just wondering if you could confirm that we do in fact have enough room for all the would-be classrooms if we can get the staff.
Through the chair, if we have enough staff, we will find space. One of the things that we've been talking about with principals is we have to open our doors, because these are all our students, whether it's before school, after school, and we have to make space that allows students the opportunity to have effective programming. So yes, we will have space for students.
Dr. Phillips?
Thanks through you, Chair. We've heard reports from the community school staff that one of their barriers to hiring is their hiring platform, like whatever we use to collect resumes, et cetera. Is there any talk about using a different platform, using the one the rec department uses, anything to make that barrier go away?
Through the chair, yes. One of the issues that we're having is when we send out notices on Indeed, and people apply on Indeed, they also have to apply on Talent Ed. So you're asking people to apply twice. So we're looking at a way to streamline that. So you apply one time, we interview you, we start the process. As I know, not only with community schools, but in our own system, we've lost people because you're asking them to do twice the amount of work to apply for one thing. So we're looking at that collectively and as a whole for, SPS and community schools together. Yeah, it's a great point.
Ms. Barish?
One program that's already in place, El Sistema, I have heard from a few people that they would like their children to attend, but they can't get them there. I'm wondering, A, if there's additional space in El Sistema that could accommodate any of these children, and then B, if there's any way that the transportation situation might be ameliorated.
Through the chair, so to answer your first question, if there is space, we should have children enroll in the program. In terms of transportation, I know that there's always some confusion around the idea that certain kids get transportation and certain kids do not. What tends to happen is if there is a slot or two on the MLE bus, a student may get on that bus, but we don't holistically provide transportation. We never have since I started, and I don't honestly know if there's a way to even do that other than what we have in terms of the MLE bus.
Could you just elaborate a little bit on if there's a slot on the MLE bus, because I don't know if everyone understands what that means.
So we have 3 MLE buses, through the chair, sorry. We have 3 MLE buses that...
Multi-language.
Yes, multi-language education buses that pick up our students across the city, and they go to one of 3 places, Argenziano, East, or Winter Hill. If a student at the Winter Hill is in El Sistema and there is an open seat on the bus, the school would have to check with the MLE department to see if it would be okay for that student to ride the bus. There isn't a bus that picks up kids for El Sistema around the city. I know I've heard, from parents in terms of, well, students at Winter Hill get the bus, or students at the East or at Kennedy get the bus, or at Argenziano get the bus. There isn't a specific bus for El Sistema or any after-school programming. It's just part of a run that they are doing. And if there's a seat, a student may, if it's allowed, get on that bus. Did that clarify?
Yep, thank you.
Okay, you're welcome.
Dr. Phillips?
Thanks through you, Chair. Sorry for the flurry of questions. I'm getting a lot of emails about the community school waitlist, particularly at Argenziano, and I'm wondering, given our communication challenges in the past, what kind of communication is going to be going out to families that are still on the wait list right now, and when they should expect to receive that?
Through the chair. So as of right now, the Argenziano Community School staff is short 4 teachers. So that's 52 students. I believe they have 29 that are on the wait list. I know the community school staff is checking daily on the wait list, is communicating with parents. I will talk with Director Barrow tomorrow to make sure that there is a communication that goes out before school starts, which obviously has to be tomorrow, so parents are aware. Again, we're trying to get these wait lists eliminated. I think we will, but again, I agree. I think we have to have that communication with parents to say, we're still working on it.
So just to clarify, if we were to hire the 4 teachers that they're currently trying to hire at the Argenziano, for example, that would be more capacity than what's currently on the wait list?
Through you, yes.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other questions about community schools? Seeing none, we will move on to our next topic, which is, yep.
Just through you, I can, we can come back and at the end of September and give another update in terms of where we are with the wait lists. I think maybe one of the things that we can do is just have a rolling update monthly so that you can see and so that the community can see. We've hired 4 teachers here. We've hired 3 teachers at the school. We have a wait list of 3 or 2, or we have no wait lists, so that everybody knows that it's a continual, work in progress, if that works for everyone.
Great. Ms. Patone.
Through you, Chair Krepchen, to Assistant Superintendent Mazza. I really appreciate how we have increased capacity. I really want to acknowledge that. It's incredibly important. And that, the team clearly knows sort of the pinch points and saying, we got to get that staff in the Argenziano. One thing that has come up before, and this is sort of a bigger picture kind of concern, and I want to take care of how I say this because I don't want to create negativity, but when I look at a school like the Argenziano, which is incredibly large, and it has 89 students enrolled, and then we have a much smaller school like the Brown, we have 105 students enrolled. There's a question about, to me, a longer term, not today, you're clearly trying to solve this, but in terms about equitable access to programming, and why would be in a situation that such a small school has a much larger number of students as opposed to a larger school. And, you can't solve it without staff, so I get that, but it's one of those things that, when we don't have staff, obviously people don't apply in some cases. We kind of get stuck. The wait list doesn't necessarily always reflect the demand. In our fantasy, we would offer as many spots as we could, and it's not just through community schools, but also through these partner programs that we'd like to have. So it's just something I wanted to name because it's come up before to me from constituents, and I think it's not, I'm not being negative. I'm just being reflective and wanting to, I certainly would never want to take seats away from the Brown. That's not about what I'm about. It's more about, hey, we have these big populations and clearly we have needs. And in an ideal world, you'd see some kind of, similar ratios in the different schools. Although I do recognize that the populations are a little different, so that could change things too. So I'm just flagging it, and I'm sure we've talked about it, Mr. Mazza and I. So, and then I talked about it with the former superintendent, but I did want to name it. So thank you.
Did you want to respond? That's good. All right. With that, that brings us to school readiness.
School readiness, that's another area in which Mr. Mazza is going to share some information.
Through you, Chair. As you know, Superintendent Carmona spoke about the Winter Hill at Edgerly and the work that's being done there, but, that's not the only school in the district. We have a bunch of other schools that, are preparing to open for the year. Superintendent and I have done some walkthroughs of some buildings with the building principals and the head custodians, and I can honestly say that the buildings look fantastic. I think people have been hard at work, and one of the things that I want to bring to light is that that our schools are heavily programmed in the summertime, which means when programs are running, the building can't be cleaned. So when we end programming the first week of August, there's a short period of time where buildings have to be turned around, floors have to be waxed, rooms have to be stripped, those kind of things. And we're thankful to have the partnership that we do with Commissioner Latham and the team because they've done a fantastic job between getting the inside of the buildings ready. They're currently finishing up the aesthetics of the outside, so the buildings look nice when people drive up. But I will happily say that all buildings are ready for students on Wednesday. And any issues that do come up, obviously we have our 311 reporting system, but anything major, principals are in communication with me about. And I immediately, have a conversation with DPW to make sure that anything that needs to happen in order for a classroom or school to function gets fixed so that it's ready to do so.
Yep, Dr. Carmona.
Through you, Chair. Part of the school readiness is also the work that has been done with the professional development, and I just wanted to allude to that just a little bit. We started a partnership with the Lynch Academy. It's a leadership program which is very well known, and we brought all our principals a week earlier just to start the process. I feel that that's going to calibrate and help us norm around some expectations in terms of centering instruction in the work that we do. So was really exciting to be working shoulder to shoulder with principals to make sure that we norm around some of the most critical leadership initiatives that we have. So that's one thing. The other thing is we also provided some support for the new teachers who are coming to our district, 80 of them. We have an induction program that is actually very robust. And also all our district leaders, last week we had 2 sessions with them to, again, norm around our instructional priorities. So that's also readiness. I think that is not just the buildings themselves. On the building side, I think one of the things that the mayor and I talked about was to make sure that we don't have an Edgerly situation or a Winter Hill community situation in years to come. So for me is how we got here, and then what can we do differently, is that right? And so being proactive, we have talked about how to make sure that the 311 process is clear for everyone. As Mr. Massa said, we visited the buildings with both Mike Bowler as well as Chad, and I talked to Jill about the disposition and readiness that I noticed in the work that is happening. Very impressed. I think I've been in 3 different districts and I haven't seen this level of attention, and I guess in part is because of the leadership that the mayor has brought into it, and also the awareness that we have that we cannot be here again in the same place. So I made a commitment to the community as well, and to my team, that we got to press each other, we got to push each other to make sure that we, the beautiful buildings that we have, don't end up in a place in which neglect creeps in, and then we have to be reactive. So I really, again, thank the city and the mayor for being a partner on this. We want to make sure we keep a close eye on the 311 process. So when teachers say, I put something in 311, I got a response that is timely. So school readiness, again, both from the systems point of view as well as from the instructional piece, I feel that we have done great work, and I feel that teachers are ready. On Wednesday, we will have our first convocation. And I hope many of you will join us. But that is also an element of being ready, making sure that we create a sense of community. When we left, we know what are the repercussions of the pandemic. And I feel that in order for us to create social change, we need social exchange. And so on Wednesday, we will be here at the high school, creating that space for the community to come back together as a team. So that's my report on Builders Readiness.
Are there any questions or comments on that? Seeing none, is there more to your report, Dr. Carmona?
Yes, I have a few things, and I hope I'm not, making people late for their late dinners or their walk for the dogs, but I have a few more things that I wanted to share, and between Mr. Massa and I, we'll share some updates that I think are important for the community. So I have a yearly student information update, and I just wanted to remind families, the families are encouraged to look out for an email from the enrollment office through our Power School online registration portal. Every fall, we ask that families update vital information about each of their students, including allergy and medical information, family contact details, and a list of people authorized to pick up the students in grades 4 and under. This is really important. It's a safety measure for us as well. Filling out the form may also allow families to qualify for benefits like fee waivers and other services. This process takes around 15 minutes for each student. So thank you to the enrollment office team and our IT department for their work on yearly student information updates. And a particular shout out to enrollment specialist Nancy Holmes for her hard work collaborating with our vendor, our internal technology staff, and administrative staff to prepare this process. I also have summer programming, the NIASC accreditation, and an upcoming half days and school holidays from Chad.
Through you. So, as you are aware, summer programming, we had another successful year of free summer programming where we met the needs of almost 1,200 students. Coordinators Deshaun Simmons and Marianne Cloutier created a single point of entry application for all summer programs, and it was shared on our website. And through student and family facing staff with parents and guardians. So we really created a streamlined system that worked for everyone, both in person and online. Programming included traditional summer school that kept students at grade level, but most of our programming was through enrichment. The Calculus Project, as you know, is we have student-developed robotics programming or for middle grades and English language learners, music programming for students in grades 3 through 8, orientation at Somerville High School for our rising ninth graders, which I will tell you was a very, very important program for our students coming from 8th grade to 9th grade. We have middle grades career and technical educational programming and more. But I want to thank, Deshaun and Marianne for their hard work, and a big shout out to all the educators, all the staff, including the administrators and the nurses who worked so hard to make this summer a success for so many of our kiddos, and given all the different logistical challenges that we did have. Then the NEASC accreditation. Somerville High School continues to work toward renewing their formal accreditation by the New England Association of School and Colleges. SHS staff worked through an intensive self-reflection period, hosted an assessment conducted by a visiting team of professional educators. The team reviewed materials prepared by the faculty, visited classes, and spoke with students, teachers, administrators, parents, and community members. The self-reflection document written by SHS staff will be available for viewing soon on the Somerville Public Schools website. The assessment team of educators from NEASC will return in 2025 to observe how their recommendations have been adapted across the school. We want to thank Principal Kirsten and Lisa Brewster Cook for really managing this important and lengthy process. Then we have the upcoming half days and school holidays. Students in grades 1 through 12 start school with a half day on Wednesday, August 30th. Thursday, August 30th is a full day for students in grades 1 through 12 as well. All SPS schools will be closed on Friday, September 1st. District offices will be open on that day. All schools and district offices will be closed on Monday, September 4th in honor of Labor Day. Tuesday, September 5th is the first day of the school year for students starting in pre-kindergarten and kindergarten. Pre-kindergarten students will end their school day early for the first 4 days of school. September 13 will be a half day for all district students. And now the best part of the announcements are the shout-outs. I want to shout out to the 2023 graduates of the dual enrollment program between Somerville High School and Cambridge College. Since 2019, students at Somerville High School have enrolled at Cambridge College as juniors and seniors to earn up to 12 free credits that they carry with them to college. The early college program is designed to promote access to higher education among students from traditionally marginalized backgrounds. Twice a week, students are transported to Cambridge College in Charlestown for classes like engineering, world history, and digital storytelling. In addition to our 8 graduates, 19 juniors took part in the program last year. Thank you to our Director of College and Career Readiness, Melanie Kessler, and other members of the Somerville High School team for developing and expanding this program. To learn more about this program and the recent graduates, you can visit our website, and there's a specific page for that.
Great, thank you. Quick question. In the past, we have gotten a detailed presentation about summer program. Can we expect to get that at some point?
Through you, yes, we will have that for you next month.
Great, thank you. Are there any other questions or comments from the district report? Okay, that brings us to the, are we complete now with this? Okay, that brings us to the personnel report. Is there anything you want to highlight, or is that just for our information?
Yes, I want to highlight a couple of things, if I may.
Please.
Through you, Chair. So we welcome over 80 new staff at our new educator orientation last week. It was a really positive vibe. We also processed more than 250 hires. That doesn't mean that we hired 250 people, but there are folks who actually, got the ILT leadership or the equity specialist. So they don't change their category of teachers, but they just get stipends, and then they include in their career pathways. So that's a positive thing. We have 15 administrators. Many of them, you saw them today, 81 teachers, and 31 new paraprofessionals. So we have, I believe, a robust hiring season for us. I also want to highlight a couple of things, that all administrators, teachers, and paraprofessionals new to SPS or their roles will be matched with a mentor who is there to help support them and learn the most important elements of the job. This will be the first year we have a mentor program for paraprofessionals, and we are very excited about it. I know. Yeah, all teachers new to SPS also will participate in 6 hours of induction PD between September and December. New educators will learn about the systems, supports, and processes used in the district and how to leverage the various departments and resources to support students. Topics include educator evaluation, utilizing technology to enhance teaching and learning, equity and excellence, student services, multilingual learner education and services, and special education. And all second-year teachers in the district will participate in 6 hours of anti-bias, anti-racist professional development led by members from our Department of Equity and Excellence. And that brings to, that's the end of my report.
Any questions about the personnel report? Yes, Ms. Parrish.
I just wanted to say I had the pleasure and the honor of welcoming the new employees last week, and I just wanted to say that the energy, the vibe was really positive among the administrators and the new hires, and it was really a pleasure to be there.
Great, and thank you for representing the school committee there. It sounds like we have a lot of new hires, which is great. I'm almost afraid to ask, but how many vacancies are we still trying to fill approximately?
So good question. And so two things. One is I always worry when we talk about hiring this many people, I also think, ooh, what is our retention number? So we don't have them yet. So I am talking to our chief of personnel to just get two things. One is getting a sense of our retention numbers, and second, getting a sense of why folks leave our district. There is an element of that is a natural ebb and flow. I know that folks go to Cambridge, folks go to different places because of the proximity. So there's a natural attrition that happens as a result of people's lives changing. So we would have to parcel through that information to determine what's a real concern for us. I know that we have a chart, if you will, of a thermometer that shows the temperature, and I think we are around in the 70% of hires. There are some other positions that are somewhat not critical, but are open because they were designed to be hired, but they are not critical. So I know that when we met with all the administrators last week, the high school was already all set. Different different administrators came to me and said, "Hey, I'm all covered with my hires." 1 week to the next, you might lose someone. I know we just lost a couple of people at the high school. So I don't have the numbers right now, but I think it's a healthy recruitment that we have had so far.
I'm happy to hear that. Mayor Ballantyne.
Thank you. I also wanted to share that I was at the breakfast with the new teachers and administrators. I asked the question, why Somerville? Why do you want to be here? And I will say the consistent theme with many of the teachers that moved in here is because Somerville's investing in the school districts, and other school districts are not, and that there's also innovative programming and thinking that's happening here. So I thought that was very exciting to hear.
Agreed.
Through you, Chair. I originally started my opening remarks by saying that I was truly. This is a gift, to be in a community like this. The thing that sometimes you don't realize being embedded in the place where you are is that it is a very special place. Scale is one thing that is critical. We are a relatively small district with a big footprint. We also have some significant investment from the city into the district, which is very rare. I don't think any district that I know in the vicinity has had 10% increase from the city. So. And also the commitment to equity, I think, is clearly one of the things that I have heard from folks around the fact that as the politics kind of filter into education, it seems that Somerville has managed to really kept the focus of instruction at the center. So, I open my remarks with that, and I want to close them with that I'm very fortunate to be here with such a great team that I have, and also in a community that really centers what's important for us, which is making sure that every kid has access to deep learning. And I am very hopeful that we will make a dent in terms of the achievement gap, and we will be in a different place. So thank you.
Great. That brings us to new business. So as you all know, I am only the acting chair since Chair Green stepped down as of July 1. So we will now have the official vote on the election of the chairperson of the school committee for the remainder of the year 2023. The floor is now open for nominations.
I nominate, May I? I nominate Alana Krepshin for chair of school committee.
All right, is there a second? Okay, I have, you have nominated Alana Krepshin for chairperson. Are there any further nominations? If there are no further nominations, the chair will entertain a motion to close the nominations.
Motion to close.
Second.
I have a motion to close and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? The ayes have it. Nominations are closed. Nominations having closed, the school committee will now vote for chairperson. Superintendent, please call the roll.
Just a quick question. Do I call everyone even though they're not here, or just the people who are
Call
present?
everyone even though they're not
Okay.
here.
Dr. Ackman, Mayor Valentine,
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry, you have to say the name.
I vote for Chair Alana Krepshin.
Mrs. Piton,
Alana Krepshin.
Mr. Green, Mrs. Diane, Mrs. Barish,
Alana Krepshin.
President Ewan Campen,
Alana Krepshin.
Dr. Phillips,
Alana Krepshin.
Mrs. Krepshin.
Alana Krepshin.
So the ayes have it, or?
Yep.
The ayes have it, so
You have elected
you
me.
have elected.
You have elected me as chairperson of the school committee for the remainder of the year 2023. I will not ask the city clerk to administer the oath of office because she was not able to be here, but I will visit her office this week and take the oath. So now, the next order of business, the school committee is the election of a vice chairperson for the remainder of the school committee, for the remainder of the year 2023. The floor is now open for nominations.
I hereby nominate Dr. Phillips for vice chairperson.
Is there a second?
Second.
I have a motion by Ms. Patone, seconded by Ms. Barish. You have nominated Sarah Phillips for vice chairperson. Are there any further nominations? If there are no further nominations, the chair will entertain a motion to close the nominations.
Motion to close.
I have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Mayor Ballantyne. Seconded by Ms. Patone. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. The nominations are now closed. Nominations having closed, the members will now vote for the vice chairperson. Superintendent, please call the roll.
Thank you. Dr. Ackman, Mayor Valentine,
Sarah Phillips.
Mrs. Pitone,
Dr. Sarah Phillips.
Mr. Green, Mrs. Diane, Mrs. Barish,
Sarah Phillips.
President Owen Campen,
Sarah Phillips.
Dr. Phillips,
Sarah Phillips.
Mrs. Krebsen.
Sarah Phillips.
Okay, the ayes have it.
All right, you have elected Sarah Phillips as vice chairperson for the school committee for the remainder of the year 2023, and she as well will visit the clerk at some point this week to take the oath. So with that, oh, I'm sorry, I skipped over the special personnel meeting of the whole report because I haven't written it yet, so we will table that for our next meeting, which brings us to acceptance of FY24 grants. I will entertain a motion.
I move to accept with gratitude all federal entitlement and continuation grants and all state continuation grants awarded to the Somerville Public Schools listed below. Jessica Howard for color perceptions in the amount of $4,925. Christian Medina for helping multilingual learners to adapt and engage in the science classroom by encouraging them to do their work in their native language in the amount of $5,000. Claudia Sarah Galvez for Young Egyptologists in Action in the amount of $375. Rosemary Sears for mallet instruction for elementary percussionists in the amount of $3,000. And Brenda LeBlanc Jaster and Kaylee Galatano for critically examining texts through the lens of equity in the SPS curriculum in the amount of $5,000.
I have a motion by Ms. Barish, seconded by Dr. Phillips. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion carries, which brings us to items from committee members. Ms. Patone?
Through you, Chair Krebsen. It had brought to my attention through City Councilor Beatriz Gomez Mocat in Ward 5 that there's been a possible change in schedule for the chiller upgrade at the Kennedy School. There's still a temporary chiller there, but the original plan was to put the new chiller in for the next cooling season, which would be, I'm assuming, spring of 2024, but it looks like the lead times are really long, so I just was asking for kind of a more formal update on that.
Okay.
And it's an item of interest, particularly to some constituents, because apparently the temporary chiller, the residents that live near it, it's very loud. So just going to flag that.
Okay. Mr. Mazza?
Through you, Chair. Ms. Patone, I can get that information for the committee.
Thank you. Are there any other items from board members? Seeing none, Dr. Phillips is the new vice chair. Do we have condolences?
We do. Louise.
Trying to get in the house.
Oh. Thank you. Louise P. Jill Blair, retired Principal Clerk 2 at Somerville High School. Evelyn Lesage, mother of Michelle Klingen, Principal Account Clerk of Community Schools Program. John Fred O'Meara, retired Principal of the East Somerville Community Schools. And Dominic P. Calioro, brother of Pete Calioro, custodian at East Somerville Community School, and brother-in-law to Carly Calioro, counselor educator at East Somerville Community School.
And with that, we are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.